Pioneer brand canola with Optimum Gly, the highest yielding glyphosate tolerant trait on the market. What's next in canola happens here.
It's election time in Saskatchewan. Here to break it down is Dale Richardson. He is a principal with Earnscliffe Strategies. He's based out of Regina, Saskatchewan. Dale, it's great to chat with you.
Great to talk to you, Sean. Thanks.
Okay, so election's been called. We've been expecting this. From your standpoint, what are the major issues that are going to come to the forefront in this election in Saskatchewan?
I would say that probably the top three, Sean, their cost of living, healthcare, and education, slash the economy, depending on what side of the political spectrum you're on. I think the NDP is more comfortable talking about education. Sask Party and Scott Moe, they want to talk about jobs and the economy, a bit more. But yeah, no, those first two, cost of living, healthcare, the two parties, they're going to be talking about that lots. And in the first number of days or first few days in the campaign, that's definitely been the focus so far, for sure.
The Sask Party has been the government, Brad Wall previously, now Scott Moe. Is it wearing, like, is there any opportunity, any window here based on the longevity of the time that the Sask Party has been in power? Is there any window here for the NDP?
Depends on what you consider a window. Is it a window to win the election? No, it's a very tiny window, maybe a centimeter width, and that's just based on the map of where the seats are and just how they kind of break out in the province. The NDP, they're going to do quite well in the cities, or at least they think that they will. I think there's a good chance that they'll pick up potentially several in Regina. They'll pick up a few in Saskatoon. But the NDP, they don't. They're just not strong. Um, outside the two big cities. And in fact, something I don't think people have talked enough about is how many seats will the NDP potentially finish in third? There's a few constituencies in the southern part of the province in particular where I can definitely see them coming in third place behind the Sask Party and Sask United. So that'll be interesting to see. I mean, to the overall question, Sean, about the long term Sask Party government. Yeah, I mean, of course, it's time is a tricky thing in politics. It's even the most competent and efficient and popular governments and popular leaders over time. At a certain point, the electorate says, I think that's enough, you guys. So in this campaign in particular, Sask Party and Scott Moe, they need to be really attentive to the mood of the electorate to ensure that they respond to the issues that are important to people, and that again, coming back to cost of living, healthcare, and jobs in the economy, they definitely need to make sure that they're responding to those concerns in this campaign.
Yeah, in Canada, we do from time to time more, decide to vote you out than vote somebody in. Stephen Harper went through that. The Trudeau government is likely to experience that in the next federal election. And heck, even in Alberta, at one time elected an NDP government, which, really, I don't think anybody at any point thought would ever happen. And it did, based on some of that, 40 years of the Conservatives forming government. Has there been, I go back like a year, there was a lot of worry on the right side of the aisle. There would be maybe some vote splitting. There was some unhappiness in some parts of rural Saskatchewan when it came to the Sask Party not being far right enough on some issues. Has that sort of died down, or where does that sit?
It's a great question, and people in political circles like me, it's definitely talked about. Um, I I think, and and this is confirmed by polling, in my opinion, it has for the most part, at least to a point where a party like the Sask United Party, to the point where I don't think that they're a true threat to any Sask Party seats. Um, they, yeah, I mean, I think the latest polling, I don't even think Sask United really registers in terms of getting a number. If, next week, we're in the first week of the campaign right now. If at the end of the next week, Sean, there's polling that shows that the Sask United is probably 10% or above, that's where, it doesn't seem like a big number, but I think that that's where, particularly in, local constituencies, again, like in the southern part of the province, there's maybe a couple up further up north where this might be the case. If they're polling in that range, that could be a concern for Scott Moe. But at this point, I think that he has for the most part covered that off.
We've seen some members that have decided to not let their name stand. There's been some retirements in the cabinet. If Premier Moe is successful, and like you said, the polls are looking that way that they will form a government again, we're going to see some new cabinet members. And I guess inside Saskatchewan, is there strength in the bench, or is there going to be some big questions here to be answered on who gets some of these high-profile spots?
This question gets asked it seems like every election, but I think a good example in the past was in the 2016 election cycle, where the Sask Party had several founding members of the party, actually, like June Drowdy, Dan Dutremont, Ken Crevetz, Don Toth. They announced that they weren't going to run again. So, the same question came up: are the new guys coming in, are they going to be strong enough? Are they cabinet material? By and large, it was proven that, yeah, the new people are very competent and very strong. So, yeah, I mean, this question gets asked every election, or maybe every couple, and I think for sure I think some very impressive people that are going to be coming in. There's Eric Schmaltz. He's a candidate kind of north of Prince Albert. Sean Wilson, he's a mayor in the kind of Yorkton area of the province. Jamie Martin, she's the Sask Party candidate for Martensville Blairmore, there's a little bit of Saskatoon, actually, part of that constituency, but then it's Martensville, which is rural. Martensville is a growing city, actually, but so it's an interesting constituency. But no, there's some very impressive candidates that are running, and but also, I mean, even with kind of those longer term members not running again, they're still in the current caucus that are running again. They're great, very capable, for sure.
What's hurting the Sask Party in Regina and Saskatoon? Why the switch there? What's going on? What's the movement?
But time, like we talked about before, for sure. And I'm not really sure why, but that seems to be more acute in the bigger cities like Regina and Saskatoon, more than rural. I'd have to think really about why that is, I guess. But there's been a couple of social issues in the last year, and you were talking about, last summer in 2023, how there was a bit of concern from the right hand side of things that the Sask Party wasn't right enough. So Bill 137, which is which people call the pronoun bill, it's something that the Sask Party government announced last year, was quite controversial. A lot of people on the kind of right-hand side of things love it. And I would say, Sean, that's probably one of the things that the Sask Party government did that maybe has fended off competitors on the right-hand side of things. But there's a lot of people in Regina, in particular, in Seven Saskatoon, that just, it didn't speak to them, and they were quite angry about it and didn't fully understand or didn't get why this was such a priority for the Sask Party government, who, in many ways, I think is valid. Scott Moe, a few years back, he went to the Saskatoon Pride Parade, which I think really people were pleasantly surprised by. And the Sask Party, in my opinion, I mean, I've gone to Pride parades in past years. I think maybe people had kind of seen the party as, okay, maybe they're a little more progressive on some of these issues than we think. So issues like that, I think, have brought some concern to people in Regina. And then the third thing I would say is that the NDP does have a stronger leader. Carla Beck is, in my personal opinion, much stronger, much more of a fighter compared to the NDP's previous leader, Ryan Miley, who the Sask Party, when Mr. Miley became leader, they branded him right away as a weak leader. Weak leadership was a line used over and over again by the Sask Party team. So Ms. Beck, she's, I think, much more impressive. She wants to fight a bit more. So that's those three things I would say are maybe some of the reasons why the Sask Party has dropped off a bit in Regina, at least.
It can be tough in politics when you're sort of fending off both sides and trying to cut a really wide swath. It can, you can do it really well for a period of time, but sometimes eventually it kind of catches up with you with one side or the other. It's a very tremendous skill if the longer you can get away with it, but it is very, very difficult.
It is. Yeah, no, it takes a really competent and strong leader to be able to do it, right? There's, all party leaders have a lot of stakeholders and a lot of people to keep happy. So, I think generally for the most part, there's been a couple hiccups, I guess, in the last year for Scott Moe with his team and that, in that regard. But for the most part, he's kept things together, and I think people are seeing that in the first week of this campaign.
You didn't mention the carbon tax. I thought maybe you would mention that as an issue that's going to come up. Obviously, the Moe government.
Well, that's just kind of assumed, isn't it, Sean?
Okay, that's fair.
No, it's a built-in thing with the Sask Party team and the premier. They actually just today, so we're doing this on Friday afternoon. The Sask Party, they posted a video, this new attack ad of all the NDP candidates and actually their campaign director, who's from Alberta, showing their support for the federal carbon tax. So that is definitely something that the Sask Party team is going to keep pushing. This kind of belief that the NDP, the current NDP, may say that they don't like Trudeau's carbon tax, but actually, here's the evidence that they do. And so, yeah, no, they've been running that in the advertisements for the months leading up to the campaign, and they're going to keep doing it for sure.
Yeah. Before I let you go, is there much, like in Alberta, when there's an election, transfer payments like come up as a major thing that you run against? Does that come up in Saskatchewan at all?
It doesn't come up in campaigns really, because really, I think everybody and across political stripes and people in the province, they all agree that a province like Saskatchewan gets a bad deal in terms of equalization. Scott Moe, that's been something that he has raised many, many times since he's been premier. So I don't really know if there's much political ground to gain on that, besides highlighting that Scott Moe has been a leader on it. But even the NDP, I think people do understand that they agree that the province, compared to Quebec and Ontario and some of the eastern provinces, yeah, Saskatchewan gets a bad deal on that.
We've been talking to Dale Richardson. He is principal at Earnscliffe Strategies. He's based in Regina. Hey, Dale, this has been fantastic. I look forward to talking to you more as maybe the election continues or on some other political matters. It's been great.
Sounds great. Thanks, Sean.